Now we're going to talk about the business use of home. We are still on business deduction and we are discussing what are the expenses which are allowable by US taxation under the IRC code that helps you to reduce your Schedule C income. Now see, business use of home, one thing is very clear, that you have to use the home exclusively and regularly for business. Now what you are actually arriving at is, imagine you're a sole proprietor and you are managing your work and you're staying in the same home and you're managing your work. So what the IRC rules are very clearly stated, which says that you cannot have the home that you're going to use for any other purpose and business. So it should not be that you have a room which is a guest room, and when the guests are not there, you're going to use it for your office purposes. It should not be like that. So think about a scenario like I have a room, but it has an outhouse, and that outhouse I'm going to use only for my business, and I'm going to use it for my business regularly, and that part of the home will not be used for any other purpose than the business. If that is the case, we will allow you to take the business deduction for so many other expenses that you spend on the home. So imagine you have interest, you have taxes, you have your utilities. I will let you take a part of that and book it as a business expense and reduce it from your business income that you're going to report in your books. But for that, very importantly, it should be an exclusive use of the room or that location that you're talking about for business purposes, and you should be in the possession of the employer. So you cannot be an employee if you want to take a business use of home deduction. So I'm working for somebody and I want to take a part of my work I'm bringing back home and I'm doing. Can I take a business deduction from there? The answer is no. You have to be somebody who's paying, who's using that room in the capacity of the employer. So either you're a self-employed. So typically for your part one, we're talking from the self-employed perspective. Or even if you're an employer and you're reimbursing an employee. So you're having an employer and you have 5 people who work from home, and these people are using their part of their house for office purposes, and you're reimbursing them for that cost. Even then it becomes deductible by the employer from their Schedule C, but never by the employee. Now, it's very important that you cannot use the business portion of the home for any personal purposes. So any kind of a personal use of the business portion of the home renders the allowance completely disallowed. So I've given you 2 exceptions. One is that you're having a retail or a wholesale unit in your home. So imagine if you have a home and a part of it is used for storing some goods which you're using as a wholesale place. Now, in that case alone, we would say that, see, it's used for retail or wholesale, and even if you're using it interchangeably as personal or professional reasons, I would not mind. And the second thing is daycare. If you're running a daycare facility in your home, then I'm not saying that you have to market an area and call it daycare, and that cannot overlap with your personal use of the home. So there are only 2 exceptions to the norm, that a business portion of the home cannot be used for personal purposes if you want a business deduction for the use of home for business purposes. Okay, so general rule, exclusive use, exceptions, retail and daycare. Second, now this is important. There is an order in which you can take this deduction because maybe you're not having enough income. So please remember, you cannot claim a refund out of this. It has to stop at 0. So please remember, it has to stop at 0, and if there's any valid amount that needs to be deducted but you don't have enough income to absorb it, you're going to carry it forward in the future years. So what you do, you get your gross income from business, right? So whatever business income you are generating, you're going to take that amount, and from that amount you first deduct that portion of the expense that you would incur irrespective of whether you're using it for home or for personal. So personal versus business purposes. Things like, please remember, interest and taxes, not insurance. So interest and taxes, you don't have a choice. You need to have so taxes are a compulsion. If you've taken that home with a mortgage interest, even the interest comes into picture. Please remember, we are not clubbing insurance for this because insurance could be dedicated only for the business as well. So what do? You take your gross income, you reduce your first layer of expense, which includes those amounts which ideally are deductible in Schedule A as interest and taxes, itemized deduction. So that business portion we will let you take in the business, and the personal portion you have itemized deduction schedule A where you take it. Now from there you can deduct all the expenses which are exclusively used for your business purposes. Things like salaries, things like any other thing which is not derived from your personal use, only business related. So because I'm running my business, I may be spending on salaries, I may be spending on raw materials, all of that would be deducted. After that, actually, you have another layer, we're going to talk about it. It is actually utilities. And after that, it is depreciation. So from here, you will deduct utilities. And from here, you will deduct depreciation. And again, depreciation for business use alone. You are not allowed depreciation at all for the personal portion of the room. It is only for the business purposes that you get that deduction. Now, instead of doing all of this problem, figuring out all your expenses and then allocating it between business and personal reason, you also have another option, and that is called a simplified option. What is that simplified option? You just take $5 per square feet, and I give you a limitation that you cannot exceed 300 square feet. So $5 into 300 is a maximum deduction. If you don't want to get into the details, just get $1,500 as a business use of home deduction. But if you do this, you're not allowed any deduction for depreciation. So if you take a simplified option, don't take depreciation, simply take $300, and that's maximum. That means you can have a business deduction which is less than $300. So up to 300, whatever is amount multiplied by 5, that's it. Nothing else apart from it. And your taxes and insurance, you please go in taxes and interest, you go and take it in Schedule A. So that's option 1. Option 2 is allocate everything, business, personal, business, personal, business, personal, in that order. Whatever remains, you have to take it forward for the next year. Otherwise, stop it at 0. That's it. We'll see some questions so that this entire thing becomes easy for you. So there are 3 categories of deductions for taxpayers using all or a portion of their home for business. What is this? First is things which anyways would have been incurred irrespective of whether you're using it for personal purposes or whether you're using it for business purposes. So you have interest and taxes. Next is the expenses for the business use of home, only business. It's not personal. Okay, so this is personal plus business. This is only business. Again, this would be personal plus business. Any other expense that you incur for home, not for business. So what you will take, you will split it between your personal and your business purposes and take the business. At the end, you have depreciation, provided you're not using the simplified option. So the last item is depreciation, and you can claim it only for your business use. You cannot claim any portion of depreciation for the personal use of the home. And whatever is remaining after all of this, what remains is depreciation. So it's either your gross income minus insurance taxes. So basically, if you look at it, it is something like this. There are 2 options. What is option 1? Option 1 is your gross income. And from your gross income, you're going to deduct your business portion of insurance, of interest plus taxes. From here, you're going to deduct business expenses. And from here, you're going to deduct business portion of utilities. And what remains, you can get depreciation. So that's option 1. Or you can take option 2, which is just the simplified option, where you will take $5 up to a maximum of 300 square feet. And please remember, no depreciation. So there are 2 options. Take whichever suits you, whichever is comfortable, whichever gives you a higher figure. Please remember, but if you're using the second category, which is a simplified option, the taxpayer simply multiplies the square footage with $5. And individuals who do opt for the second option can get their interest and real estate taxes on itemized. So basically what you do, you take all of this here only for the business use, and take also, don't split Schedule A items for business and personal purposes. Now let's just do some questions from this area. A couple of questions that helps us understand these options really well. The first question is, how much home office depreciation is allowed as deduction for the current year? The following records are provided for a self-employed graphic designer who qualifies for a home office deduction based on exclusive business use of 15% of their home during the current tax year. So here we don't have any simplified option, so you have to go for option 1. They've already used the word exclusive, so I'm going to take that 15% should be for business purposes. So what do? You start with gross income and you have $8,000 as a deduction here. From here, you're going to take mortgage interest plus taxes, but only the business portion. So you have 15% of 20,000, which is 3,000. So you remove this and you get 5,000 here. Now from here, you will take your business expenses, and you know that the business expenses will be all. This is only the business portion, right? Business expenses means those expenses which you incur only for your business. That does not have any personal attached to it, any personal expenses attached to it. So you take, now you have 1,500. Again, you go to the third layer and you have utilities. Now, when you have utilities, here also you take only the business portion. How much is this? 6,000 into 0.15, which is 900. What is left is the maximum depreciation that you can take. How much is the depreciation that you have? It is $10,000. This is the total home depreciation. You have 10,000, but how much can you take? Maximum 600. You cannot take more than 600. So this is option 1. You start with your business income. First layer, interest and taxes. Second layer, business expenses all. Interest and taxes, only the business portion. Business expenses all. Utilities, only the business portion. So first, second, third, what remains is depreciation. So the answer is B, $600. Now look at the next question. How much can the taxpayer deduct for a home office on her annual business tax return? C is a self-employed graphic designer who works from home creating digital marketing campaigns. She allocates a specific spare room in her rental house to serve as a home office, which accounts for 20% of the home's total square footage. However, because space is limited, the room is also regularly utilized to store personal seasonal items and occasionally serves as a guest room. So what are we doing? They've given us topics like utilities like rent and utilities as an expense, but this is not an exclusive use of home, and hence nothing will be allowed as a deduction. Therefore, no deduction allowed for business use of home. And the answer becomes A, that is $0. So it has to be exclusive, and if it is exclusive, then you go for the business portion. There are rules, you apply it and you're sorted. Now go to the next question. Here we have option 2. Okay, so this is a example. We are going to use option 2. If the taxpayer elects to use the IRS simplified option to calculate her home office, what amount will she report on Schedule C? This is an easy question. The moment they say Schedule C, all that you have to see is what is the square footage. It's $5 till 300 square feet. So what does this say? T is a self-employed message therapist, sole proprietor, who uses a room in a personal residence regularly and exclusively to treat clients in the normal course of business. The taxpayer determines the dedicated room is 380. Okay, that's it. I know it is more than 300, so we'll limit it to 300. So limit to 300 square feet. So this becomes 300 into 5, that is 1500. I am not interested with anything else. Had they asked me what is the total deduction in Schedule A, then I would have taken interest and taxes. So if you look at this question, so this is a gross income which comes to Schedule C. There's some business expenses. There's some mortgage, interest and property taxes. So see, this actually would go to Schedule A here. And the rest are all lost. You don't get anything. So the entire Schedule C income will be 12,000. You're going to take 14,000 in Schedule A in mortgage, interest and property taxes. And your utilities will be 0 because you're not going to get any deduction for it. So in lieu of it, rather than getting into the problems of splitting it between business and personal, I give you a simplified option, maximum 300 square feet into $5 per square feet. So the answer becomes B, which is $1,500. Now let's look at the next question. Clara's current year Schedule C return should reflect what? During the current tax year, the taxpayer operated a business from her personal residence. She used 20% of her residence exclusively and regularly for business purposes as a principal place of business. The income and expenses allocated to her business and the business portion of her home were as follows. So we know that we start with gross income. This is $5,500. From here, we are going to first take interest and taxes. And here, now see, read the question very well. They're not saying that it is total. They're saying the business portion of interest and taxes will total up to 1,500. So you don't have to split this again in 20%. So I will reduce my interest and taxes and this will come to 1,500. I am left with $4,000. Now from here, I have to reduce business expenses and this will be all. So what are the business expenses? It is 2,500. So I'll reduce my entire business expenses. I'm left with $1,500. Now from here, I have to reduce the business portion of utilities. So the business portion of utilities. Here also, this is the business portion only. So how much is this? So this is done. Okay, they've already told me that the business portion is 450. So I'm left with 1,050, which can be the maximum depreciation that can be allowed. So they have told you that the allowable depreciation on the business portion is 1,600. I cannot take 1,600. I limit it to 1,050. So what is the answer choice? So I'm going to take 1,050 and 550 will be the depreciation carried forward. So here I see a net profit from business of 1,500, wrong. I know it is, so this is also wrong. So I know there is no profit and loss and I know there is a 550 expense carryover to the next year. So the answer becomes B for Bangalore. We go to the last question in this area. The call of the question is, if the taxpayer elects to use the IRS simplified option to calculate his business home use of home deduction, how much can he claim? So now I know it is $5 for a maximum of 300 square feet. That's it, because they're not talking to me about anything else. There is a 3,000 square feet home and maintains a qualified business office for quote unquote. Now we have $280. So I'm going to take 5 and $280. And the answer becomes $1,400. So the answer to this question is B, which is $1,400. So to sum up, only if it is an exclusive use of home for business purposes, regularly and ordinarily, except daycare and retail or wholesale where you can have the overlapping. What do? You have two options. The first option, take your business income, reduce the business portion of interest, taxes. Whatever remains, take all of the business expenses from here. Whatever remains takes the business portion of utilities, which is rent, insurance, and all of those repairs. And then in the end, whatever remains, the business portion of depreciation, this can be taken. Anything left, you can carry it forward for the future years. There is another option with the simplified option is just take your square foot to the maximum of 300 square foot at $5 per square feet. And then whatever remains is lost. And on top of it, you can go to Schedule A and you can take whole of your mortgage and whole of your taxes and whole of your interest. Remember, not insurance. That's it. Thank you.